Going in and out, but the reception was right.
Well, I got the umbrella, that's the most important.
Well, they have, yeah, the destination list too, like Mary is a friend that was getting married at the national park in Yale, and they can only have like 15 people.
Big Rose
Oh,
Steel.
really?
Rose
Can't
Steel.
because it's in a big park. So you're having just like really.
Well, I'm trying to keep up with Sarah.
Sarah is
and
this
she's
year,
like
you know,
golf.
Not.
She's had a long time. She's on men.
I have a friend I worked with, and she was divorced, and she was remarried, and her husband was divorced, they were marrying each other. And what their thing was with Western wear, they hired one of those pavilions over in Caledonia State Park, everywhere like grills and stuff. And they had free medicine cake, and they married right there in the pavilion, and then they had a big cookout afterwards. And everyone was wearing their Western wear. This is amazing. I just happened to be camping there at the time, and I got invited in for some hot dogs.
Alright, we're like 3 minutes out.
Baker and Sherry, you know, they were a big part of it.
And Alec is my Zoom person.
I just got a message, her birthday's the 20th of September. So we were texting back and forth, she had a knee replacement this past week.
Oh dear.
And she said she messed it up. I said, go for it, she's younger than I am.
Do you have anybody trying to log?
I am just going to see participants 3.
She's a member of our church.
One of them's me.
Nancy.
Yes, hi, I'm Nancy.
And, that's Nancy.
Yes.
Then we might have more than one.
No, that's rather than.
It would have been Amy.
Amy.
Amy's the other retirement counselor.
And that was right.
You either get Amy or you get me.
I'm sorry, but I don't remember you.
From there.
And it's been years since we talked to her.
Okay.
So it's kind of move marches.
And we made it.
We put our deposit down and everything.
Not that any of us have, so they take it and put it out.
Okay.
We'll share a lot of knowledge, right? today.
Well, it's gonna be general, but I have a wonderful handout that will probably speak to you, since you're apparently the holdout. Well, not putting you on the spot or anything. That's not unusual though, honestly, for a couple to not be on the same page. It just is, you're not kind of ready at the same time, if that makes sense. For Alex, I don't want to, where people can zoom in.
You're good to go.
All right.
I thought they were.
They were downstairs and Cheryl says, oh, I'll see you Thursday.
Okay, so should I start?
I think so. I'm just gonna make sure no one else is trying to get in. Nope, we're good.
Okay. Yes, no. Welcome to Start Planning Now. My name is Nancy Daniel, and I'm a retirement counselor at Cross Keys Village in New Oxford, Pennsylvania. I hope to give you information today to start you thinking about a plan for the future, and in particular, why moving to a continuing care retirement community might be the right move for you. What is a continuing care retirement community, or CCRC? It is a retirement option where you will live independently, just as you do now, but you have the peace of mind to know if you need next levels of care, you have selected who will provide that care to you, and you have guaranteed access to it. Examples of next levels of care are assisted living, which at Cross Keys Village we call personal care, adult day care, skilled nursing, and rehab. Our personal care / assisted living and our skilled nursing both have secure memory areas in them. Where do you find CCRCs? There are 2,000 nationally, and 200 or 10% are located right here in Pennsylvania, making our state #1 for senior living communities. Cross Keys Village, where I work, is the 5th largest single-site nonprofit CCRC in the United States. At Cross Keys Village, we are a fee-for-service community. So what that means is you won't pay for the next levels of care unless you use them. When people start the process of looking into this as a retirement option, they can fall into 2 groups. The first group are the planners. They make spreadsheets and they are very detailed. They may have had parents who were not planners and they saw what happened with no plan and they want a different retirement experience as they age. They could have had parents who moved to a CCRC and they had a positive living experience and are using the continuum, so they understand what they're purchasing. The other group are people who are facing a situation that motivates them to move. This could be a medical diagnosis, such as memory, a Parkinson's diagnosis, a child who helped them live in their home is moving away or is just no longer able to help them. They may be unable to live safely in their home due to stairs, the laundry's in the basement, outside lawn care, snow removal in winter. Things that were not an issue when they were younger are becoming challenging or they need to hire outside help. Sometimes children will come home for a holiday visit and become concerned as to what they are seeing and will call our community for information. It is preferable to not be doing this in panic mode. It is easier if you aren't feeling forced into the decision. Sometimes it's a friend has moved to a community and they go to visit that friend and become interested in learning more. So how do you start the process of looking at a community? Call the community you are interested in and also explore their website. Ask if they have openings or is it all by wait list? Where I work at Cross Keys Village, we are 100% occupied, so you must be on the wait list. Another community might have availability or shorter wait times. Request information. We can send you a packet or we have all our information on our website. Schedule an in-person appointment. I'll pause.
Don't worry about it, we just got started. Yeah, please.
Hi, good morning. Have a seat. So schedule an in-person appointment to review the information that you received in the packet or online and the steps of moving to a community. At Cross Keys Village, we can do a phone appointment if you live a distance from our campus because we move people from all over the country. At the appointment, we will be able to tell you if you financially qualify and for which of the 50 floor plans we offer. It is based on your total assets and your monthly income. So it is very helpful for you to know this information when you come to visit our community. We will explain the wait list, how to get on the list, the timeline to move in from when you are called and offered a home till settlement on that home. Do not put your house up for sale just by going on a wait list. You should have a plan of where you're living. Ask if it is possible to tour the community's common areas and or their residential living options. At Cross Keys Village, we do tours where a villager, and that's what we call a person who lives in our community, they will show you our common areas, which include a theater, an art studio, restaurants, a pool wellness area, and much, much more. We have a wellness team at Cross Keys Village and a life enrichment team for planning activities and programs. We are only able to tour homes that are being renovated. We do not ask current residents to open their homes for tours. Our restaurants are open to the public, so come up, eat, talk to people who live in the community, walk around our community center. You know, you would be welcome. Also, when you're going and checking out communities, ask what the minimum age is to move in, as all communities will have a minimum age. At Cross Keys Village, you must be 62 years old, and the second person can be 55. We do not have an age premium. I have moved in sisters. I've moved in a father-daughter, mother-daughter. I've moved friends together. We do not require couples to be married. There is no minimum age to go on the wait list. So let me say that again. There is no minimum age to go on the wait list. I've had people be on our wait list and literally move in on their 62nd birthday when they can age qualified. When considering residential living, you want to do it in the prime of your retirement years. We have villagers who've been living independently on our campus for 10, 15, 20 years, and some are now in their 90s, still living independently. Also, if you have a pet, ask, are you allowed to bring a pet? We allow 2 indoor pets. There's paperwork that has to be completed, but we don't charge extra for that. A key question to ask is, what happens if I outlive my assets? Will I be able to stay? At Cross Keys Village, you would know that you would not be asked to leave and you will be cared for. You cannot gift or gamble your money away though. Your assets do stay with you. We do not ask to see your personal will, and you do not turn all your money over to our community. This is a common misconception that you're going to sign everything away, whether it be Cross Keys Village or Homewood or any continuing care retirement community. Your money's going to stay with you. So how many people in here have a house full of stuff? Okay. I know the belongings.
Yeah, but I still have some more stuff.
You catch them.
The downsizing piece is the hardest part of the move. And I know 2 people in our audience here just moved to communities. And that is honestly, it is the most daunting part of this. I just had someone at coffee hour say that to me, that he couldn't move because of his stuff. And I said, well, you need to start dealing with your stuff. We do have a list of places to donate items. And also there is a thing called a senior move manager who you can hire. You're going to pay them a fee, but they can pack you, move you, unpack you. And also a mover can do that as well. So don't let that be the reason that you don't move. As you research communities, we recommend you pick one that is usually full or near full. A high occupancy is a reliable sign that a community is financially secure and worthy of your trust. Many times people will go on the wait list at several communities and they wait to see who calls first. That's not unusual. The wonderful thing of living at a CCRC is the maintenance-free lifestyle and the sense of community. The supports are in place for you to age successfully. It means no lawn care. We do the snow removal. You just pick up the phone and call maintenance or grounds. For example, if you need a ceiling light bulb changed, you do not get on a chair or a ladder. Our staff will do it. If you no longer drive, we have a van each week that you can go to the grocery store with volunteers on that will help you. You can also hire transportation to get to a doctor's appointment. So you can still live independently even if you're no longer driving. So in conclusion, go visit communities, gather information, and see what feels right for you or your loved ones. If you want to be active, look at what is offered. If your plan is to just sit in a recliner and watch TV, the activities then may not be important. You will know if it feels like the right community for you. So if the only thing you get from my talk today is remember to get on a wait list at a community of your choice. Get on the list. We were going to do buttons because we thought that would be, if you get nothing out of an appointment, get on a wait list. So I wanted to open up to questions because I think sometimes that's more meaningful if you have specific questions on topics. So does anybody have any questions?
You must have done a really good job.
You have.
You did.
I wanted to add that, we're so blessed to have a community that has so many retirement options. And then the supporting community, if you've noticed over the last 5 years, all the emergency stations, the hospital additions and outpatient care, those are things generated by the numbers of people that we have in our community that are needing them. On campuses, we have sufficient medical staff, but you have to also know that the surrounding community is there for you and current, I mean, up to date. So I think that's another big plus about deciding on where you're gonna go. And you know, your statistic about only 2,000 CCRCs, that is not enough.
It's amazing because we live in a state that has 10%
Yes, it's
of
amazing.
the total. Because there are some states, my boss, I think he was looking in Utah for a family member, there was one in the whole state.
Mhm.
So that's, you know, really quite
It's
amazing and
crucial.
challenging though, as our country, as people age. But it is, I always say, I feel like Cross Keys Village is like living in a small town a little bit. I mean,
You have
because
your own zip code.
yeah, well, and it's, you know, we have about 850 people that live in our community. So it is like living in a small town. You do get to know your neighbors. I think neighbors look out for neighbors. Our community, we do have a village council, so it's broken up into neighborhoods. And so you will have a village representative. So you have a voice in how the community is run. And I just think for our community, we just have tons of activities. I mean, if you can't find something to do, or if we're not offering what you like, suggest it. Because I guarantee there's others in the community that have an interest too, and we'll be willing to offer it. Yes.
I have a question now. How long is the wait list?
Really, right now, it depends on the option. If someone was going on my wait list today and a 1-bedroom, 1-bath cottage, no garage, they would probably be moved in a year.
Oh, okay.
But if you're talking a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage home, it's probably a minimum of 3 years or longer. We have 50, at Cross Keys, we have 50 floor plans. So every home has its own list in a sense. And how we do our wait list, you decide, you can go on our wait list and not be ready. And so what that means is you're on the list, you're moving up the list, we're not calling and offering you a home because you're not ready to do this. You're not losing any time. When someone's about a year out from wanting to move, we say go priority, meaning we're going to highlight your name. And how we do it, we call, when your name and date comes up for a home, we call you. You come in, we explain what we're doing renovation-wise. You get a week to decide if you like the home or not. We're also going to give you a settlement date 90 days out from when you're signing that contract. But if it isn't the right home, you just say no and wait for the next home. And Janet is in our audience.
I think I went through 20 homes.
So
I think they thought I was never going to do anything.
but the reality is we're not on commission where I work. So my job and my coworker, Amy Bestie, our job is to get you into the right home. And you're going to know if it's the right home and if it's the right time. And sometimes people, they could be priority and then they have a medical event. So then they go general till they overcome the medical event and they go back to priority. So it is a process. And also sometimes people can be on more than one community. I had someone that they had been on Homewood, it's our counterpart in Hanover, their list, and they went on our list and they got offered something at Homewood. And they called me and I said, it's going to be 2 years. And they really needed to be at a community. They had some medical things happening. And I said, you really need to, my recommendation is you go to Homewood. And I even had my boss, our vice president, get on the phone with them and say, we recommend you go to Homewood because it's an equally nice community. And they needed to get somewhere and be settled and not be in the middle of a crisis and not having a plan, honestly, because that's the other key to this. You are selecting where you'll be cared for, whether it's skilled nursing, assisted living, you get priority access to that, regardless whether you're at Spirit Trust, whether you're at Homewood, whether you're at Cross Keys Village. And that is huge because as we all know with COVID, a lot of, you ended up in the hospital, you're going where there's a bed. And it honestly might not be where you would pick for yourself. And even being on the wait list, at least at our community, that doesn't guarantee you a spot in skilled nursing. So the people we will honor in our contract are the people that sign the contract, have moved in, paid the entrance fee, and are there. And is there, I'm going to give out a handout that kind of answers like, when's the best time to do this? I think you do want to do it while you're still able to enjoy everything that's offered in a community. You don't want to do it when you're sort of borderline needing assisted living. I think you want to get in and get settled.
Wait till you're 80 years old, you can't walk or move. There's so many things you can take advantage of. I wish I would have done it earlier, but you don't know.
Right.
But everybody, other people I've talked to said the same thing. Go when you can enjoy it. Don't wait until you're sick and need assistance. That's not.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, you're right, Janet, most people don't move in and go, worst decision ever.
Right.
Most people go, oh my gosh, wish I had done this sooner. Because honestly, once you get out from under your stuff, and that honestly is going to be the hardest part of this, and donate it, gift it, find another home for it. I always say to people, bring the pieces you love and let the rest go. My coworker always uses the phrase, does your home own you or do you own your home? Mm-hmm. And it kind of goes to your stuff too, because you can't take it with you. So don't let the attachment, to things be why you don't move, because at some point, somebody's gonna have to deal with that stuff.
If there's one thing I don't miss, it's that house. I'm so glad that we have I mean, that's like a celebration all in of itself,
Well, and Janet's an example. She moved in, it was one of our major weeks this summer of like 95 degrees. She moved in and her air conditioning didn't work. So you called maintenance and they got you a temporary till they could get the air conditioning company in the next day because it was a brand new system and it was fixed. So she wasn't living in her house in Hanover where her air conditioning died, and then you're going to be.
I still have neighbors down there, and I just heard the other day, one's air conditioner went out, one's front stoop is falling off, one's something else, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad I don't have it, because every year when spring comes and you have a house, it's like starting all over.
Well, you do, and you forget that a lot of times too, people get stuck with, well, my house is paid for. Why would I want to pay an entrance fee to a community my house is paid for? But the reality is, when things start going wrong, that's going to be on your expense to do that. Like if you're in a community and your roof needs replaced, that's on the community you're living in to fix it. If your air conditioning goes out, for us, if your appliance, and we give you all your appliances, including a washer dryer, if something needs to be replaced, we just replace it. You're not getting charged extra for that. It's all part of your monthly fee. You're not going to have real estate taxes anymore because we own the home. You're paying to live in the home. So I even had a coworker, her grandmother moved in, and she said, for the first time I can actually save money because she wasn't sticking it into her house, the little extra she had. So then if she wanted to travel or do things, she could.
Cookie jar. Fill your cookie jar.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing I want to back up a little bit is a beautiful thing that's happened here is we have 3 faith-based churches, not for profit. And when
Correct.
you get out and examine what else is available that is for profit, There's a big difference, and we just happen to have.
And that's why you need to ask, that is the key question, what happens if you outlive your money through no fault of your own? If that's the only question you can remember to ask, because at a for-profit, it's possible they might ask you to leave.
I can
Nice
tell
knowing you.
A story about a lady. She was 92 years old. She lived upstairs, and for whatever the reason, nobody seems to know, she decided to move to a place in Westminster that is a for-profit organization. Her money ran out, and so did they run out on her.
Right,
So she's now trying to find some place to live
right,
with no money.
right.
You were talking about depleting your stuff.
Mhm.
I want you to know, about 3-4 years ago, I bought a new house. And when I moved, I got rid of half of everything I owned. And it was really hard, but it was like, who wants this stuff sitting in boxes in the basement? You're never gonna look at it again anyway. And that was very, very hard to do, but it can be done.
And wasn't it a relief? I
Yes.
think that you just feel more relieved if you just aren't encumbered by, and if it's in a box, you're not honoring whatever it is,
No.
whether it's something you inherited. I mean, to me, if it really has that much meaning, it should be out on a shelf somewhere in your house. You should be using it. I have a friend, her mom passed away, and she inherited all these antiques, and she said to me, she goes, I feel guilty because I can't put all this in my house, and we don't have, no extended family wants it. And I said, you gotta make peace with that. And I think the loved one that's gone on would understand that. Wouldn't it be nicer for somebody to buy it or donate it, that they get it, whether it's Habitat for Humanity and somebody needs furniture, that it has another purpose in its life as a dining room table or whatever the item is. But she was struggling with that because she felt really guilty that her mother had written who it came from but at the reality, at the end of the day, she's not going to be able to take it with her. So at some point, it's going to end up somewhere. Yes, Alan.
I'm gonna add you guys kind of know who I might be talking about here, but a perspective on something too that I'm gonna do for my kids because my mom did it for us. Don't forget the blessing that you're giving your kids by doing this, because they don't have to be worried about you. Also, when mom went through her things, we did it together. And I would say to her, I'm not into antiques. Sorry, let's figure out what to do. And then, she found people that liked it and things like that, rather than then putting that on me, like you said with your friend. That's why I was thinking about it. And it's not only a gift for you, but it's so a gift for your kids and your grandkids, because I've watched my parents, especially my dad, go through it with his, and it's really hard. It's a struggle to honor what they want and still not be able to do it by themselves. So.
Well, and I'm an example of one of 5 that my mother ended up in a skilled nursing. And then we had to empty out a house that 50 years, I admit, I had stuff in the basement. We all did.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't a one-day event cleaning it out. We would all take boxes home because you couldn't just throw something out. So I agree, Alex. I mean, I think a lot of times I want people come in for an appointment and their parents didn't do it. And they understand what cleaning it, all the work of that. And they go, our kids don't realize the gift we're giving them, that we're doing the downsizing. We're going through our stuff. Certainly you'll still have things in your home at the community you move to, but it's not going to most likely be the amount if you're in a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house currently, and even if it's just do 1 box a week, don't overwhelm yourself. Kind of just, like go to the basement. If there's a box there that you haven't opened in 2 years, well, what's in the box? I mean, I even know I've pulled like a container out at my own house and was shocked what was in this container. And I'm like, what was my thought process? Obviously I wanted it out of sight. 3/4 of it I threw away. So what was my plan when I put it in the tub? I have no idea, honestly. Yes.
I'll continue on the stuff idea. One of the things that I think you can do if you can't decide, and it's a great grandmother's hand-me-down something or other that had great significance, you could take a picture and you can create like a scrapbook or something like that that represents those things that you really can't house. And you don't know anybody else that wants in particular, no daughters and sons, that sort of thing. But you want that memory to be around. You can take a picture, you know, become a scrapbooker or something, somebody who keeps, and then that becomes your coffee table book or something in your living room, if it's something that, these would be things that are no longer within your possession, but still in your memory, still things that great grandmother used to do. And perhaps that can be a massage for you.
Tatting.
Pardon me?
Tatting.
Tatting?
That.
I know what tapping is.
The kids don't want it. Actually, the thread gets so old that it just, you pick it up, it falls apart. And it's 100 years old, and the skill that
I
went
said
into
no
it.
to that.
Yes, you said no.
That's why she brings it up. I didn't want it having.
A little thing like that, that even, it's gonna be a word in vocabulary that's forgotten, you know, and yet your idea is lovely, because you can take a picture and you
I'll
say,
say one thing, once you start, the first day is a little hard, and then after that, you find yourself walking through the house, there it goes, that's good. You can't wait to get rid
You've
of
got
it.
a big scrapbook or a small one.
Well, and I know when we were cleaning out my parents' things, here we discovered we had letters from World War II that my father had written home, but we had the letters back to him. And so we actually ended up donating them to Gettysburg College, to their history department, and they scanned everything in and they use it in their classes. And so I thought, you know, because we could have left that in a box and it would have disintegrated over time. Now it won't. And, you know, we didn't want any money for it. But anything we found that was historical, like we found a swastika flag type thing, all of that got donated that they could use as part of teaching. So don't think you can't find a source for things. And usually, like I'll say, ask us, because honestly, we've made a list of things. I had someone recently that they had 7 Christmas trees that they would put up in their house, 7 themed trees. Well, obviously they weren't bringing 7 themed trees to their home at Cross Keys. But my coworker, her husband works for Camp Ader, which is a Brethren church.
Yes, it is.
And they do a Christmas festival in
Yes, they
December. So they donated all the trees to there. And some of the ornaments they were going to sell in their little gift shop, but it found a home. It didn't end up in a dumpster, because that's my big bugaboo. I think things should just be tossed, like how we're gonna have a yard sale here. I think there's so much needed in our community and in the world. Donate, because we live in a community with lots of options for donating things. We just do. Yes.
Why the Brethren Home is so special to me, I've been a member of the Hanover Church of the Brethren
Okay.
for 75 years,
Oh,
and I'm not gonna change.
okay.
I always, well, I'm not gonna say all the time, I always say it was something else, but yeah, we've been on the list, I don't know how long, but they were gonna call us after 5 years. Now, we haven't heard anything yet, but
Well, call tomorrow. But I'm gonna give you an article. I want you to read the article, because I think
Please.
you're the holdout.
yes.
And,
There's always something.
but call in, and I'll give you our main number, but call in if you're Amy's, she can look you up and make sure, if you do wanna be called, let's make sure you're priority. And, yeah, I mean, and honestly, Janet, you can attest to that. I mean.
Well, I met a lady yesterday in the gym, and she was telling me that, she lives in Heartlands, across the street.
Hearthside.
Hardside. And she said, it's like a college campus.
It is. I call it senior college with no classes. Because it is. You can eat, you can make friends. Somebody that lives, we have an option called Hearthside. It's think of like condominium. And the one lady said that she goes down to her neighbor, they become friends. Like she'll go down in her PJs and her slippers and knock on her door. So think of like a dorm room. And and go talk to her, like if she has to do that. I mean, so I do think people are welcoming. I think we draw from all over the United States. I moved a lady recently who moved from Boston. She didn't know a living soul here. And I got her here, and she didn't use internet. She didn't have email. She didn't have an iPhone. We did everything snail mail. I'd write her a letter. She'd write me a letter back, calling the landline. But I got her here, and it was a process. And she also had, in the city of Boston, had a whole house full of things. She used a lot of just got junk though. She told me at the end, she was like down to she had to move it. But I also think they might sell things too. Yeah, they just don't, yeah. And a senior move manager, they typically will do online auctions of things that you'll get some monies for your things. Or you could hire an auctioneer, have them come in. I mean, I know young people today don't necessarily want dark furniture or antiques, but that always can change. So there's ways to do it. And once you do get moved, you're not going to look back and go, sorry, we did this. I just don't believe you will.
Maybe in all the people you've spoken with, I feel I've discovered that people who get over a certain decade, they still are 45 in their mind.
Yeah.
And you say, oh, 65, oh, I can move all that. I want to give it to so-and-so. And then 70, you say, I really would like to see this collection go to that, but I don't really care. I don't want to move it myself. And your mind is still making 45-year-old decisions, and your body's not doing what it says it would like to do. But if the more you can distribute what you love and care about, do it as soon as possible. And because it takes time to do that. And also you'll find out the truth, because when you finally say to someone, I've saved this for you for 25 years, and they say, what? They don't want it.
I wouldn't say what.
It's your cousin.
Well, most children, yeah, they have their own stuff, and they're not interested.
You know, it's a mindset. We're young in our minds, but our bodies are not cooperating.
Yes, our two were there last year, and he said, "Come in the basement, look at that stuff. What you want, what you don't want." They said, "Dad, forget it. I don't want it." He just can't get that through his mind. Now, the other big thing he has a Yankee room in the basement.
Okay.
A whole Yankee room that is filled with Yankee things. So in case anybody wants to buy, I said, sell it to a 12 or 13-year-old kid. They might be a big fan of the Yankees.
Just get a 2-bedroom. He can have a Yankee room and a 2-bedroom villa.
Alec, you're not helpful. Honey.
Somebody did that out in a garage.
Yeah.
Actually, my coworker, they have all kinds of like car stuff out there. I had somebody made a garage their train room, even though we have a actual train room with different train gauges.
Love it.
He literally, the car was never being parked in the garage. That was his train room. So if you get one with a garage, that could be the Yankee room. You just park your car out on your driveway.
There's some options.
I wouldn't let that stop you. Honestly, I would not. Or in our community, when they have a display area where if somebody has something like that, for a month, they'll let you put it up, all the things you treasure, and you can, look at
people to.
Yeah. You could even probably do it now from outside,
They just have a railroad exhibit going right now up there.
Right.
Somebody had a railroad cars or whatever they are. I didn't go, but I saw the sign and they had advertised it, yeah.
But
Something.
But I do know, and I think you talked about this, if you have like friends your age that want their parents to do this, you cannot force someone to move to a continuing care retirement community. You cannot put them on the list without their knowledge and without them wanting to consider it. I think start the conversation. If you're concerned, like if you're starting to be concerned, if someone, like I mentioned, comes home, because that's typically, we always laugh, like after Thanksgiving or Christmas, that's when we get the calls. A child's come cross country and they're like, oh my gosh, mom and dad really we need to get them moved. Well, number one, mom and dad have to be on board with that to get on the list. But the nice part in our community, I've even suggested, come up and bring your parent up and eat in the restaurant. Talk to people, say, oh, do you live here? Where do you live? Do you like it? Walk around, sort of just introduce them to the sense that you're not moving to the nursing home. A lot of times people go, why do you want to move to the nursing home? Well, you're not moving to the nursing home. You're in a community that has a nursing home. You may never use that nursing home. You're moving to I say, think of like a small town community.
Senior living.
Right.
Easiest
Absolutely.
word of all, senior
And
living.
everything, all the supports in place that you will age more successfully. You just will. And we see that. I'm always astounded that the number of 90-year-olds that are still living independently and doing actually quite well, or they might be bringing in some assistance to still continue to live independently, and you're allowed to do that. You know, I don't know. I think it's a great option. I hope to move to a CCRC. I obviously do this as my job and sell it. But if you had asked me 20 years ago, I didn't really understand what this was. And my coworker laughs. When I started at Cross Keys Village, I started in community life. So I started working in the skilled nursing. I did activities. But when you were hired at that time, they had a part where you went out to understand the community itself. And they took us on a tour, and I was fascinated because they took us to this cottage, and I'm like, well, I don't understand. What do you mean that you can live in this cottage? And you know, because that was really sort of my first introduction to it in a sense, but I was going to be working in the skilled area and then transition into the position I'm in. But I do get it. And I think you do need to, I think, shop this, go into a community, see what feels like the right option for you. The communities are going to give you information. And honestly, most of us are full. That's why you need to get on a wait list. Now, our community, you will pay $1,000 to go on our wait list, but it is 100% refundable if you do not move to our community, or the $1,000 goes in full to your entrance fee. So we, Cross Keys Village, aren't keeping any part of your $1,000. And every week people are going on our list. So our lists have continued to grow. So at least for us, you need to be on a list. If someone needs something sooner than that, they need to call communities and say, what is the timeline? Do you have anything coming? Because some communities might, it cycles. We typically do not have openings. If we do, it's rare. It's rare if we have what we call an open market home, because we just have lists for everything where I am at. So get on the list. I'm serious. That's if you're on the list. You two already live in a community, but if you think it's something you want to consider doing, there's no harm. I would say to people, you're just giving yourself a choice. Doesn't mean if you don't ever do it, you don't do it. But if you don't get on a list, you're probably not going to do it, because when you need to go or really need to do it, you're not going to be in a position to get a home. You just will not.
Yeah, what I might want to mention too, when people are shopping, is the star rating for their inspections.
The Medicare, yeah.
Um,
You can go out on a
Cross Keys is
Medicare.
5-star. Homewood is 5-star, and that happens annually. They come in, all the agencies come in, and it's a culmination of what they find on site that gives them a 5-star rating. And that's really tremendous to be that in a year with this limited number of continuing care sites that we would have that rating here at home.
Yeah, and nobody aspires to end their days in a skilled nursing setting. I mean, I don't think any of us want that, but like my own mom was in Cross Keys and she got wonderful care. And so if it is, that's what happens, you do want to be in a setting of your choice, I think, and to know, like what Estelle, what you're saying, that the care is going to be good that you're going to get.
Alec can attest to this, that my father-in-law, Gordon King, was the worst patient home would ever have.
God bless him,
Oh,
but he got great care.
He got great care despite all the commands and wishes that he had.
well, I think at least when I did the community life piece of skilled nursing, I think we always tried to honor what were the person's interests and, yes, it was a pleasure because you actually were getting to spend the last days of someone, of their life, but we came up with some terrific activities at that time. We would come up with things, we would say, what's the wish list? What do people want to do? Like my mother wanted to go real shopping. So we got a van and went to the Gettysburg outlets. This was like 15 years ago. And we went real shopping, that she could go into a real store and shop. Or we did Target. We went to Target with residents. And they loved that, and the families all said, oh my gosh, because then they could get Christmas gifts, let's say, for their family. And so, you come up with like practical, fun things to do, honestly.
I think your job, well, you'll be retired by the time the next generation comes along, but it's gonna get easier because our generation doesn't have the image of a nursing home. And that was my grandfather, worst patient at home. You were being shipped off. And it was it was a nursing home. There wasn't this CCRC. We went over to see Nana's, my mom, that's what the kids call, and the kids wanted to move in. Dave wanted to get on the list. Dave's like, I can get you in there pretty soon because he's almost 60. So I don't, generationally we see it differently now.
Right.
So I can understand that the generation now thinking, I don't want to go to a nursing home, and it's just not like that at all. These places aren't,
We need a lot.
they're not like
sites.
that. Every time I go over to my mom's in the morning, it's 10 of 8, and those walkers are out there walking, and the guys are walking their dogs, and everyone's talking, and it's wonderful, so.
So any other questions? All right, I'm gonna give a handout. My boss wrote this, and I had so many comments. I was telling Charlotte, in 1 week, I had a person that lives at Cross Keys. It was something sent out in an email. And I had someone that lived at Cross Keys came and goes, oh my gosh, that article was fantastic. I had someone that was reserving a home said, oh my gosh, that calmed me, like the decision I'm making. And then I had an appointment, a new person who she read this, and I'm like, so I went into my boss, I said, well, whatever you wrote really hit a nerve, so that is going to be our handout today. So if you're interested in getting a packet, I have a paper that you can give me your name and address, and we'll mail you a packet. If you're interested in doing.
From for those of you who aren't familiar with our do you have one with our Church Growth is putting on these, we like to call them our talent, our blessings seminars. Emmanuel's offerings. I should know the title of the church, but Emmanuel's offerings. What we're doing is we're going out to our congregates, and we are discovering the talents that our congregates have, and we're trying to bring them to the community. So we're gonna have one of these quarterly on different topics, and Nancy was kind enough, and thank you, Nancy, to bring her talent and her industry and all of her knowledge to the community, and we hope that you guys will check out on Emmanuel's site and through all of our communications what our next will be, and share those with the community too. We feel at Emmanuel that we need, as a community, to share the gifts that God gave us with others. So, and if you know anybody who has a great talent within the congregation, please tell them to contact Church Growth, because we'd love to share that talent.
I do stand-up comedy.
Stand-up comedy, yes, we'll do it. Did you hear that, Charlotte? Stand-up comedy. Thank you again, Nancy. You're welcome.
Thank you. Well, I can tell you when the next one is. It's going to be in the spring. We don't have a definitive date as yet. It was likely to be March. We have a